Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic: 4 requisites for BrahmaVidya. BrahmaVidya, the knowledge of the Brahman. What is Brahman? How to know? What is the method? Who is competent for that knowledge? All these questions arise. Our scriptures clearly point out the knowledge which ordinarily people seek in this world is an inferior type of knowledge. It's called in Sanskrit Aparavidya. Inferior. That means this knowledge will never give you a sense of fulfillment. There is no end to this Aparavidya which the people generally seeking. There's so much to know. There's no end of it. And you won't be satisfied by pursuing this knowledge. On the other hand, it binds you more and more into the world. You feel you are inseparably connected with the world. And you try all your means to see how you conduct yourself well in this world. This world is everything for you. This idea is strengthened by the pursuit of this Aparavidya. But then it doesn't end up there. Immediately a person will come to know that he will never get real peace of mind as long as he is seeking the knowledge of this type. So there is always dissatisfaction, discontentment, always a line of depression is there in some corner of the mind. As long as the depression stays there in the mind, one cannot get into a real state of joy. So, after passing through bitter experience in this world, he will finally conclude that this knowledge which he is pursuing is just nothing. It is just waste of time in pursuing to achieve this type of knowledge. That's why when you see Sri Ramakrishna's life, how everything is set before us. He has set the model. Look, the knowledge which you are seeking will not lead you towards God. You have to seek the knowledge of Brahman. And he himself is a demonstration of the achievement of that supreme knowledge of Brahman. When his brother Ramkumar was trying to put him into the school, and his brother wanted Ramakrishna to be well educated in the sense of the world, and he should live a good, respectable life of the world as all the people do. But Sri Ramakrishna's mind was not set in that direction. From the beginning, he began to feel this type of knowledge will never take me out of the darkness of ignorance. So what is the use of this knowledge? I am seeking light. So, the spiritual knowledge, I want that knowledge by which all the ignorance is totally erased. There is no more ignorance. Secondly, once you are having that spiritual knowledge, you will be in a state of complete fulfillment. Knowing that knowledge, there is nothing to be known. There is nothing else to be known. Everything is known by knowing the spiritual knowledge. So that is the importance of spiritual knowledge. That is experience. It is not simply talking or theorizing or having some academical debate. None of these things. Experience is a touchstone and terminus of BrahmaVidya. It is distinct, completely distinct from other Vidyas. So, one has to be aware of this fact from the beginning, when he is quite active in every sense. His mind is good, his body is good, all his senses are functioning very well. When a person is in such state of health, he should devote himself for the pursuit of spiritual knowledge. That is the right time to use up. If you lose that time, probably you have lost the opportunity and will have to pay a very heavy price for that. Again, you have to be born. Again, you have to pass through all these hurdles. So, you have to become wise. You have to somehow come in association with holy people and start doing spiritual practices, even though it is just humble beginning. You have to start. For many people, for 99.9% of the people, even that initial start is not there. So how can you really appreciate or enjoy the glory of BrahmaVidya? So we have to be very determined. That's the first important condition required for the spiritual knowledge, and it has been defined in the Upanishads. Yaya tat aksharam adhigamyate. That by which is realized the immutable. Thus in BrahmaVidya, the emphasis is solely on realization, anubhuti. Being per se is a natural state, also called sahajasthiti, and to remain anchored in it with mind and its vrittis in it, stilled and stifled, is the samam bonam. BrahmaVidya is also called Sarvavidya Pratishtha. That is, its total accent is on unitive awareness, pure and homogeneous. It is a support of all kinds of knowledge. When you come to BrahmaVidya, what happens? Knowing and being are identical. Brahmavit brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Becomes Brahman. When Sri Ramakrishna realized Divine Mother Kali, later he would say to the devotees, who is there here? It is none other than Divine Mother of the universe. She is dwelling in this body. And he was that Divine Mother. In fact, he gave that vision when Mathur Babu was wondering, who this Sri Ramakrishna really? Who is this person? Is he God? He seems to be a totally different person when you compare with other people. And he was curious to know. With that intention, he was gazing at Sri Ramakrishna when he was walking in front of his room. And by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, Madhur Babu could see who Sri Ramakrishna was. When he was gazing at him, he saw, while Sri Ramakrishna was walking in one direction, he saw him as Lord Shiva himself. He was amazed to see that. Again, when Sri Ramakrishna was returning in the opposite direction, Madhur Babu saw him as the Divine Mother Kali. Madhur Babu was in ecstatic state. And he began to rub his eyes to know whether it is hallucination or it is real. He found it was real. because it persisted for some more time. Repeatedly, Mathur Babu saw Sri Ramakrishna as veritable Lord Shiva, as veritable Mother of the universe. Because Sri Ramakrishna had realized the truth, he was truth himself. He was truth himself. That's the meaning of telling Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. In the thick blaze of Brahman realization, what happens? The dross of empirical knowledge gets burnt up, and an excess of plenary bliss born of unity vision floods one's being. When Sri Ramakrishna had the vision of the Divine Mother, after passing through intense discipline for 12 years, on the final day, he got an ecstatic experience. He lost all outward consciousness. He saw the whole universe shining with the light of the Divine Mother. And he had that experience of unity vision. It flooded actually his whole being. So the criteria of competence for acquiring spiritual knowledge are unlike those in Apara Vidya. Of course, for Apara Vidya, for the inferior knowledge, or say for the knowledge of the world, also the student should have to have certain qualities. Without that, even your secular knowledge you will not be able to get. What is most important? One should have good intellect, one should have retentive memory, and one should have grasping powers. So, these are all very essential requirements for empirical studies. For BrahmaVidya, it has got its own prescription, its own norms of competence. And it is very important for us to know, without being competent, you want to have the spiritual knowledge, you want to have the vision of God, you want to have real peace and happiness in this world, you want to attain Jivan Mukti. How it is possible? First become competent enough. Possess all these qualities. You have to possess them. You have to acquire them. You have to cultivate them. There is no point in telling, no, I can't do it. If you can't do it, then the result is obvious. You will not have the experience of God. Finished. There is no doubts there. There is no ambiguity there. You keep on thinking you are practicing religion, but in content you have attained nothing, because you are not following properly the qualifications required for spiritual life. That's very important. So first of all, you have to have clear knowledge of all these things. It's walking with full awareness. It is not groping in the dark. You are walking with full awareness. Every moment of your life you are aware of acquiring spiritual knowledge. If you become aware of it, it follows you are totally sincere in cultivating these qualities. And these qualities have been very clearly defined in the scriptures. They are fourfold. One is Viveka. Because in English translation they translate it as discrimination. I'm not satisfied by this translation, but anyway it's all right. Something is better than nothing. Secondly, Vairagya, dispassion. Viveka, Vairagya. Third one is Tat Sampatti. That is 6 treasures of virtues. Namely, Shama, mind control, Dhamma, sense control, Uparati, self-withdrawal, Titiksha, forbearance, Shraddha, faith, Samadhana, tranquility. So this is the third qualification, Shat Sampatti. 6 treasures of virtues. And the last one, the fourth one, is Mumukshutvam. That is intense longing for liberation. Every one of these qualities is very important. When you are equipped with these 4 qualities, then you are sure to attain the spiritual knowledge. You are sure to get the vision of God. And you are sure to have the experience of non-duality, one without a second. Advaita Siddhi, you will be able to get. And see, Viveka Vairagya. Look at the life of Swami Vivekananda. His whole mind was set in that direction. He was overwhelmed by the experience of the non-dual state. And so, he took it as a mission in his life to spread this message of Vedanta all over the world. And he had the full blessings of Sri Ramakrishna. And so he came to America, he broadcasted the glory of the spiritual knowledge and how one should really aspire for it. Sri Ramakrishna was a Brahmajnani. He realized all aspects of Brahman. Brahman in its impersonal as well as personal aspect. And then he declared, both are true. You can't deny either of them. Both are real. Personal God, definitely you can have. Impersonal also is equally true. So, he gave this tremendous teaching to the humanity that whatever God, whatever form you are worshipping, you are sure to attain the absolute reality and you will be having perpetual peace and bliss. So, whatever Sri Ramakrishna spoke and give forth, the esoteric charm of BrahmaVidya and reaffirmed its lofty tenets and lessons. Sri Ramakrishna, though he was not educated in the ordinary sense of the term, as people have the education going to school and learning something, which takes them to nothing. But here, Sri Ramakrishna possessed at once the deep spiritual poise of Yajnavalkya Maharshi and the incisive spiritual penetration of Shankaracharya, the sublime varieties of BrahmaVidya acquired a luminosity in his sacred sayings. Sri Ramakrishna was an adept in explaining the subtle Vedantic truths through simple parables and striking analogies. The high teachings of Vedanta were given to ordinary people in a way they could understand. The simple, direct words of the Master were a veritable commentary on the lofty texts of BrahmaVidya. Abstruse lessons of BrahmaVidya were a child's play to Sri Ramakrishna. The Master, out of his infinite compassion for hapless humanity, interpreted the austere Upanishadic secrets in simple words, intelligible to the masses. So, his inspired sayings on the fourfold qualifications which I just mentioned before constitute a veritable Magna Carta for ardent aspirants. What are those first, the fourfold qualities, four requisites for BrahmaVidya? The first one I had mentioned, it is Viveka. Viveka. On this requisite for the student of BrahmaVidya, how Sri Ramakrishna nicely explains this wonderful quality of the Viveka. It's very interesting. And he makes the point very clear that everyone should have this Viveka. And he explains it. Suppose rice is boiling in the pot. To know whether it is properly boiled or not, what do? You simply take one grain of it and press the same between your fingers. At once you will come to know whether the whole part of rice is boiled or not, just by testing one grain. Surely you would not press each and every grain of rice. Just as you know the condition of the rice by testing only a few grains, so also you can know whether the world is real or unreal, whether it is eternal or ephemeral, whether it is existent or non-existent, by just examining 2 or 3 objects in it. Man is born, lives for some days, and then dies. That's a fact. Everybody is aware of that. So too are animals and trees. They born and live and die. Discriminating like this, you come to know that the same is the fate of all things endowed with name and form, even of the earth, the sun and the moon, even the planets. One day they also disappear. Do you not thus come to understand the nature of all things in the universe? But you should be analytical and open-minded to know the truth. Never one should be fanatical or narrow-minded. If you are fanatical or narrow-minded, you will not enjoy the glory of truth. When you thus recognize the world to be unreal and ephemeral, you will no longer try to hold on to it forever. Then what will you do? You will just renounce it from the mind. What is the meaning of renouncing it from the world? What is the meaning of renouncing the world? It means getting rid of the mind of all desires. Desires constitute the world. When you succeed in this act of renunciation, you come to know God, who is the cause of the universe. One who gains the realization of God in this way, if he is not all-knowing, what else is he? So, tons of spiritual wisdom encapsulated in a tiny tale. Well, that is Sri Ramakrishna, the great master. Sri Ramakrishna had trained his foremost disciples, who all realized the truth in their very life. If you study Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, you will know how all these great disciples have tremendously contributed for the welfare of humanity with respect to spiritual knowledge. One of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Chidananda ji, he was dealing with this subject, Viveka. During his course of talks, he said, though we may be repeating that all is unreal, that this world is false, yet, suppose I tell you a harsh word, it disturbs your mind. When there is so much power in evil words, why should there not be power in the Vedic teaching, I am Brahman? But as we have no faith in the mantras, they do not become effective in our life. Words, again, are of two kinds, spoken and written. Something is written in a letter, and reading that, you will have a reaction, good or bad. The reaction comes in the mind quickly. And again, how funny, there will not be the same effect upon each and all. Some will be affected, some not. Those who are concerned with the particular thing, they only will be affected. While we discriminate, it seems that there is nothing. But a moment after, everything comes. If there is no object of sense enjoyment in front of you, when you discriminate, you may feel that you have no weakness at all. But as soon as the object of temptation comes, you are upset. That is the test of your controlling temptations. We discriminate, no doubt, but after doing that for some time, we give up that habit, and the result is this. You will be just trapped in this world. One must be well established in Viveka. One must dwell in that. With that, no result, without that, no result will come. He is indeed wise whose mind does not react though the objects of enjoyment come before him. This is the test. So when your mind has attained to that stage, then only you can be sure that it's all right. It is true that one cannot give up all desires. It's not easy and it is not possible also. But you must know how to monitor them. If the mind becomes discriminating, desires cannot exert their previous power. In Yoga Vasishta, there is a passage which tells, if one moves about with discrimination as one's friend, one does not fall prey even to great temptations. And that is actually true. If one maintains discrimination steady and strong, no illusion can ever overpower a person. If you constantly remember that the world is unreal, what can desires do? So that means you have to be constantly discriminating what is what, not simply swallowing everything that comes, not blindly going in a way. You have to exert yourself efficiently and properly. That's why we keep on saying, please be associated with scriptures and people who are living that life of spirituality. That's the meaning of telling satsang, holy company. That's the first quality of discrimination. So, discrimination is the first important quality one should cultivate. And the next important quality is vairagya, dispassion. That's also very important. And how Sri Ramakrishna explains it in a nice way, this point. Sri Ramakrishna said, in a forest full of thorns and briars, it is impossible to walk barefoot. One can do so if the whole forest is covered with leather, or if one's feet are protected with leather shoes. It's impossible to cover the whole forest with leather. So, it is wiser to protect one's feet with shoes. Similarly, see how he takes this analogy. In this world, man is troubled with innumerable wants and desires. And there are only two possible ways of escape from them. Namely, either to have all those wants satisfied or to give up all of them. But it is impossible to satisfy all human wants. Why? Because with every attempt to satisfy them, new wants arise. So, it is wiser to decrease one's wants. How? By contentment and the knowledge of truth. That's what Sri Krishna said in the Gita, Santushto enakena chit. That quality of contentment. Just be satisfied with what you have. Don't keep on multiplying desires. What a simple recipe for the ills of desires that plague us. So, how it's very important to have this vairagya. Sri Ramakrishna said, the mind is everything. If the mind loses its liberty, you lose yourself. If If the mind is free, you too are free. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example, the mind may get dyed in any color, like a white cloth fresh from the laundry. If the mind is kept in bad company, the evil influence of it will color one's thought and conversation. Placed in the midst of devotees, the mind is sure to meditate on God and God alone. So it changes its nature and according to the things amongst which it likes, it lives and acts upon. So Sri Ramakrishna deals with this importance of vairagya in a very simple way, but in a very effective way. And it is really very essential for those who are aspiring for BrahmaVidya. First is Viveka, second is Vairagya. And about this Vairagya, Swami Brahmananda ji, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, has said, this dispassion is a first principle of spiritual life. Without dispassion to the world, faith and love do not grow. You must have dispassion. What is that? To lose the ego in God is dispassion. Sri Ramakrishna is born in this age to teach mankind that dispassion is the ideal of human life. To find goodness and attain peace, give up everything for God. If one has the will, one can be dispassionate and realize God. And another disciple, Swami Premanandaji, said, let the strong wind of dispassion rise in your minds, that the trees of desire be uprooted. Then even as birds fly from the shelter of trees before a strong wind, will the ignorance of selfishness, jealousy, hatred and egoism take flight from your hearts. Then shall peace follow and fill your lives. Even calm follows the storm. Sometimes dispassion arises suddenly in a person due to frustration. Sense objects become like bitter poison to him. But such dispassion is like the fire kindled in a heap of straw. It soon burns itself out. In order to become stabilized in renunciation and dispassion, one must try to become absorbed while repeating with single-minded devotion the name of God. Fire of dispassion burns away all the impurities of the unregenerate mind. Then only it is possible for one to realize God and feel His grace. Dispassionateness first originates by seeing the evil clinging to sense objects. Until a person begins to see the dark side of life, no spiritual advice is of any avail to him. Lord Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad Gita the means of bringing the fickle mind under control. Sri Krishna has said dispassionate practice, vairagya and abhyasa. And there is no other way. So anyway, one has to cultivate vairagya. You have to acquire all these qualities if you are really aspiring for spiritual knowledge, BrahmaVidya. And then comes Dhamma, controlling of the senses. Sri Ramakrishna said, when does the attraction of the pleasures of the senses die away? When one realizes the consummation of all happiness and of all pleasures in God, the indivisible eternal ocean of bliss. Those who enjoy Him can find no attraction to the cheap, worthless pleasures of the world. And again, he who has tasted the refined crystal of sugar candy finds no pleasure in tasting the dirty molasses. He who has slept in a palace will not find pleasure in lying down in a dirty place. The soul that has tasted the sweetness of divine bliss finds no happiness in the vulgar pleasures of the world. On Uparati, another quality which is to be acquired among the Shat Sampatti, self-withdrawal. How to get into that? Again, Sri Ramakrishna gives the analogy. A boat may stay in water. Self-withdrawal is not so much a fleeing from the world in sheer cowardice as a bold encounter with it, with an iron resolve to remain untainted by its virus of worldliness. Then, the next quality of the 6 treasures, which I mentioned in the beginning of my talk, titiksha, how to tolerate. The Master says, again he takes the example of anvil. Look at the anvil of a blacksmith. How it is hammered and beaten, yet it moves not from its place. Let people learn patience and endurance from it. Then the next quality is Shraddha. To kill another, a sword and shield are needed, while to kill oneself, even a pin will do. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. So to teach others, one must study many scriptures and sciences, while to acquire spiritual illumination for oneself, firm faith in single scriptural utterance will suffice. Hold on to one spiritual idea and live your life practicing it. You will attain the fulfillment. Then, samadhana, another treasure of the spiritual quality, that is tranquility. Sri Ramakrishna said, he gives the example of an eagle with a fish in its beak. As soon as it has got a fish on its beak, it was chased by crows. Thousands of crows are just making miserable. And this bird is flying in every direction, but it could not avoid the chasing of the crows. And finally, it got tired. In that great confusion, it just threw away the fish. Then all the crows just left the eagle and went away. The eagle was feeling extremely calm, sat upon the branch of a tree, and it was enjoying the peacefulness when all the crows had left him. Seeing it in this quiet and tranquil state, a saint saluted it and said, he is called Avadhuta, he says, "You are my Guru, O kite, you have taught me that so long as man doesn't throw off the burden of worldly desires, he cannot escape from worldly distractions and be at peace with himself. And coming to last quality, last requisite for acquiring BrahmaVidya is mumukshutvam. That is, intense longing. How Sri Ramakrishna longed to see Divine Mother. The Master said, let your heart pant for him. How? As a miser longs for the gold. As a drowning man pants hard for breath, so must one's heart yearn for the Lord. Then only one can expect to see him. Do you know how intense our love of God should be? Again, Sri Ramakrishna tells, the love that a devoted wife possesses for her beloved husband, the attachment that a miser feels for his hoarded wealth, and the clinging that the worldly-minded people foster for the things of the world. When the intensity of your heart's longing for the Lord is equal to the sum of these three, then you will attain him. What a graphic portrayal of the yearning for God at its highest pitch. The Master was a living embodiment of BrahmaVidya. His utterances, his actions were crisp commentaries on the subtle message of BrahmaVidya. So, Sri Ramakrishna is there giving everything for us. The spiritual knowledge he is sharing with us, and he has prescribed the method which everybody really can follow. But to have spiritual knowledge, you must really have very strong aspiration. You must really aspire for it. You must really feel the need for spiritual knowledge. Then only you will put all your effort to acquire it. Just as a person who wants to go to medical school, he has got a strong desire to go to medical school, then how he puts all his effort to get into that? Apply the same force towards spiritual knowledge. You will get it. You will certainly get it. So, these are the important requisites which we should have. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shat Sampatti, Mumukshutva. These are the four requisites. We should be well equipped with these qualities. Then you become really competent to enter into spiritual realm, and then when you take up to yoga, when you take up to spiritual practices with this background, you should be certainly able to realize the truth. And once you got the spiritual knowledge, you become totally fulfilled and you enjoy remarkable peace and happiness wherever you are. Birth and death have no meaning to you. Once the truth is known, everything is known. So with these words, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ May the Divine Spirit protect us, guide us, give us strength and right understanding. May we not hate one another. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. May the Divine Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we work in harmony with great vigor. May our study be illuminating and fruitful. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.